December 2013, which might seem a long time ago, I wrote a piece called "The Pivot to Asia Bears Its Fangs." And I said then, I see the pivot to Asia as the encirclement of China, then the shrinking of its operating theatre, and then lighting the tinderbox that is the periphery, and Xinjiang might well morph into China's Afghanistan, I said. Vice President Pence, in a speech expected later today at the Hudson Institute in the US, is to tell China we will not be intimidated in the South China Sea. He is sharpening US criticism of Chinese policies around the globe, will give China a blunt warning on Thursday that the US will not back down from what Washington sees as Chinese intimidation in the South China Sea. Pence will say a Chinese naval vessel came within 45 yards of the USS Decatur as it conducted freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea, forcing our ship to quickly maneuver to avoid a collision. Despite such reckless harassment, the United States Navy will continue to fly, sail, and operate wherever international law allows and our national interests demand. We will not be intimidated. We will not stand down, Pence said. Pence will also accuse the Chinese Communist Party of convincing 3 Latin American nations to sever ties with Taiwan and recognize China. These actions threaten the stability of the Taiwan Strait, and the United States of America condemns them. And while our administration will continue to respect our One China policy as reflected in the 3 joint communiques and the Taiwan Relations Act, let me also say that Taiwan's embrace of democracy shows a better path for all the Chinese people, Pence will say. Well, that's going to go down a treat. As a senior career member of our intelligence community recently told me, what the Russians are doing pales in comparison to what China is doing across this country. Look, only in August last year I wrote China Rising, and we've seen a significant pushback since then. In August I said, apart from a few half-hearted and timid FONOPs, China has established control of the South China Sea. It has created artificial islands, then militarized those artificial islands across the South China Sea. It is a mind-boggling geopolitical advance, any which way you care to cut it. And now we're at this stage when the US is pushing back real hard. The US Navy is proposing a major show of force to warn China. US Navy's Pacific Fleet has drawn up a classified proposal to carry out a global show of force as a warning to China to demonstrate the US is prepared to deter and counter their military actions, according to several US defense officials. The draft proposal from the Navy is recommending the US Pacific Fleet conduct a series of operations during a single week in November. Goal is to carry out a highly focused and concentrated set of exercises involving US warships, combat aircraft, and troops to demonstrate that the US can counter potential adversaries quickly on several fronts. While the proposal for the week-long exercise has been driven by the US military, carrying it out during November when US midterm elections are taking place could have political implications for the Trump administration if the US troops are challenged by China. This flow map shows the 15 largest import and export partners of the USA. Its 2 navies and China are the most important business partners. In this, a US Navy photo showing a confrontation between the USS Decatur and the PRC warship 170. I go back to July when I asked who blinks first. I said Trump after bashing on Justin Trudeau of Canada. Mexico's Enrique Peña Nieto now upended, of course, and then firing a few broadsides at Europe, has now turned his attention to Xi Jinping and thrown him the keys, challenging him to a chicky run.